interesting note from yesterday. A couple of drivers just about 2 weeks ago in Las Vegas, the drivers were lifting for about maybe a second and a half going into the turns, but a majority of the race around Las Vegas Motor Speedway, they were holding these cars wide open, and that's due to the different engine packages that they're bringing along with the risers into the motors. But at Fontana this weekend, a lot of these drivers are saying where they're having to, even the speeds are much lower. I mean, we've seen speeds in the 212, 213, 214 range, and these speeds are considerably lower coming into this weekend. And in the past, a lot of these drivers were able to hang this thing out real far down into the turns before they let off. They're saying now that they're having to let off in the throttle much more considerable amount of time going into the turns. So that's something to look for, that now we've both got lower speeds into it, and now that we're actually getting some throttle control out of these cars, we may see some cars more passing than we have in the past. And I think it could be interesting, especially with as many as 5 grooves that you see around Auto Club Speedway, and just the new throttle control that we're now going to potentially see this weekend, which I think is a good thing. I said that at Las Vegas, that, these cars holding it wide open all the way around the track is very much indicative of a place like Daytona and Talladega. And that's not something that, I particularly want to see at these racetracks. I want to see some more throttle control, and it sounds like this weekend that at Fontana we're going to see that, and that should move not only the different grooves of racing around the racetrack, but also the fact that we could see potentially different passing in areas that we haven't or didn't see at a place like Las Vegas.
Certainly, we've got the Xfinity race this afternoon. Tyler Reddick sets the number 1 in the point standing there with Xfinity Race Series. Talk with us a little bit about Tyler Reddick going into Fontana.
I think Tyler Reddick, he's come over to Richard Childress Racing. I mean, he was the champion in the previous year over at Junior Motorsports, and Richard Childress Racing, their Xfinity Series has their Xfinity teams have seemed to be much stronger than a Cup Series, but it seems like the Richard Childress Racing as a whole is with Daniel Hemrick working alongside of Austin Dillon. It looks like that everybody over there is much faster, and now that Tyler Reddick is there, he's very much picked up where he left off in last year, or at least late last year. He didn't start off the year, aside from Daytona winning the event in Daytona last year, and then he kind of lacked just a little bit until he got about halfway through the season. And this year, he seems to, that energy has just come right along. We're seeing good runs out of him already. And Richard Childress Racing, I think as a whole, and I think you can just be more broad into that, is running more competitively this year than we've seen in the past. And there's 3 young guys over there. Austin Dillon is there. They're also working alongside Richard Childress Racing and Germain Racing at the same time. So I think this is helping everybody out over there, and Tyler Reddick is a beneficiary to this, no doubt, in the fact of the improved performance overall by that stable at Richard Childress Racing.
We got Christopher Bell, Cole Custer, Michael Annette, Brandon Jones, Austin Cedric, John Nemechek, Noah Garrison, Justin Algier, and Ryan Sieg rounding out the top 10. What are your thoughts, sir?
I was surprised by Ryan Sieg. Now, last year, Ryan and that team at RSS Racing, they had some sporadic runs that were very competitive. And the off season, they decided to go a totally different direction. They built new cars. They have new engineering support, and we're seeing them probably run better than they have in that company's career. They're progressively getting better every week. They're being more competitive every week. They've been in the top 10 every week except for one. So I think for them, they are a strong contender this year. Are they going to be a strong contender for that, championship? I don't know. I think that they're still building, but I think they're going to be a real strong contender for some of these drivers that are going for the championship, for some of these drivers that are going to try and make it into Homestead and the playoffs later this year. So for them, I think that they're moving in the right direction. Now, Christopher Bell, he had a bad week last week, and unfortunately it put him out of the race. But for him, the good thing about it is he's already locked into the playoffs this early in the season. So, that bad run that he had at Phoenix last week, they can scrap that thing and go on and not have too much of a hit later on in the season. So two opposite ends of the spectrum there. I think, Christopher Bell is somebody that we're going to continue to talk about all season long. He's going to be very highly competitive over in that car for Joe Gibbs Racing. I don't see any reason why he won't be contending for the championship once they get to Homestead or very late in the season. Going back to some of the others that are in there, I think John Hunter Nemechek has an opportunity at GMS Racing to improve. I think that stable at GMS in the Xfinity Series needs better runs. They've been doing well in the Truck Series over the last couple of years, but they've needed some help on the Xfinity side. Spencer Gallagher, who was in that car, said, look, I understand that we need some new experience in this car. We need to be better in this car. We need to be better as a team and overall. And he understood and recognized this and took himself out of the car and placed John Hunter Nemechek in it. He's got several wins in the Truck Series, and I think he could be a contender. I think he is, he had a very lackluster season last year overall in the Xfinity Series, but this year with GMS Racing, with their full support, look for him to again, improve upon last year. I think we could probably see him contend for a couple of these wins at some of these places, but maybe not for the championship at the end of the year.
Last week at Vegas, qualifying, Daniel Suarez, Michael McDowell got in a little bit of a scuffle there on pit lane. Have they kissed and made up, or are they going to meet behind the Burger King parking lot?
I think some people would just hope that they would go out there and go and fight this thing out. But no, they've had their conversations. They met with NASCAR last week. In fact, they even rode in the truck together as part of pre-race ceremonies and had a little conversation as far as that was concerned.
Wouldn't that be funny if they got into a fist fight in the back of the truck? That'd have been noteworthy. We need some more good fights. We need some more good fights. Martinsville's coming up, and Martinsville is known for more than its hot dogs. We might see some fights, and it's like hockey. We want to see some good fights. We want to see some haymakers going on. Martinsville is known for that. Let's go ahead and get on over to the NASCAR Series Auto Club tomorrow, and then we'll talk a little bit about the hot dogs in Martinsville.
Well, as I alluded to earlier, the whole bag of them, because you can't just eat one of them. But as I alluded to earlier, NASCAR came out yesterday and said that these drivers made a complete mockery of the qualification process. They're saying that by Texas we could have a new qualifying procedure, that they're going to make some changes. Yesterday, for what people don't know is, or maybe not have seen, is that during the first 2 rounds of qualifying, the drivers went out, they took their time, and then during the final round of qualifying, the drivers did not leave pit road, and nobody took time. They did not make it back to the flag to make a timed lap. 12 cars, all 12 that were in the final round, left pit road with about 3-ish odd seconds needed to make time. So NASCAR has seen this in the past. In fact, it happened in the Truck Series in 2015, where during the final rounds of qualifying, not a single truck took time. And I think after what we saw yesterday, again, NASCAR came out. They said that they made a mockery of it, and they're going to make some changes come Texas. My personal feelings into this is that I've never been in favor or really liked the qualifying like this. I know a lot of people say that single car qualifying is boring, single car qualifying takes too long, but I think there's ways to mitigate that in the fact that, at Daytona, we ran through an entire field of cars in just about an hour, and we could do so at some of these other racetracks, but I think that they need to look at the way that short tracks do this. 1 warm-up lap, 1 hot lap, and 1 round of qualifying. That's it. You go out there, you make your lap, and then you fall where you fall in the field. No multiple rounds or anything like that. But I also have a caveat to that. My feeling is also that if you can't make it through Tech twice, then you're done. Then you're just not going to make time, because NASCAR needs to condense this down. For people that are watching on TV or people that are sitting in the stands, because, nobody wants to go back and watch 2 hours worth of qualifying anymore. So I think it's an unfair I think it's unfair to other people in the field that if you're having to continuously go through Tech and failing Tech and you can't make it through, and this prolongs the qualifying process, I think if you can't make it through on the second time, then you're done. You go park it back in the garage, and you're just going to start at the end, at the tail of the field. So I think there's ways to mitigate these things. I think there's ways to get this qualifying down, like we were at Daytona, to about an hour or so. And I think that a lot of people could watch that on TV or sit in the stands, because I think that it's more enjoyable to the fact of you only have 1 lap, so you got to go and give it everything you can in that 1 lap, and they're not going to have to sit there all day long to figure out who's going to be on the pole, outside pole, or even 30th place.
We're looking at Kyle Busch being number 1, Joey Logano, Kevin Harvick, Denny Hamlin, Martin Truex Jr., Kyle Larson, Eric Almirola, Brad Keselowski, Kurt Busch, and Ricky Stenhouse Jr. round out the top 10 as we go in to Auto Club and the final race of the West Coast Swing. What say you, sir?
Well, I don't think I have anything more to say on Kyle Busch. I mean, he's the best at what he does for a reason. Some of the other, I think it's very interesting that Ricky Stenhouse is in the top 10. Roush Fenway Racing has not had very good seasons over the last 3 to 5 years or so, as Matt Kenseth, Carl Edwards, and others left out of there. Somebody else who's having a very good run is also Ryan Newman over there in the number 6 car. They're going to start in the top 10 again this weekend. So I think Roush Fenway as a whole, they're making the strides and making the turns that they need to make to become better, and I think we're already seeing that. Ricky Stenhouse ruffled a few feathers a couple of weeks ago, but, that's not deterred him from the fact of continuing to stay and have good runs like he is. I think he can prove that he has good runs. He has in the past. I mean, he's a 2-time champion in Xfinity Series, so he knows what he's doing. I think he just needed Ross Fenway as a whole just needed a little bit of help, and I think that they finally got that with Ryan Newman over there. But it's just not Ryan Newman